What's up, everybody? This is Sharu with a weather update for the stars on April 25th, Friday. Today, we're going to have the moon in the middle constellation within Capricorn, which is known as Shravana. What does Shravana mean, you ask? Well, Shravana is the star of listening, and Shravana comes from the root word shruti, which means that which is heard. Listening quite literally. And the stars in the sky form an ear, the Vedic mystics saw. And so one of the biggest things that this is really good for is for giving a speech or learning something. This is one of the best stars to start when the moon is in this constellation, to learn something new or to begin a study. And it's just known for being the best time to hang out with your teachers. And because information can just be received a lot better, you can make more connections. And that's actually the Shakti, or the power, is to make those connections. I really like this constellation where the moon is today, because it's able to just intuitively know the order and structure of everything. I find a lot of people with this constellation are just really into philosophy, and religious things, because they understand they want to know the different connections of how things are made, and they're just really intuitive to be able to just come up with that information. Pretty powerful. And so to be a good listener, that can make you also a great communicator. And here's Tony Robbins, who has some of his main planets in Shravana. And it's associated with this really cool myth of a form of Vishnu, Vamana, where there's this demon god Bali who's in the heavens, ruling heaven. He got all the gods out of heaven, and that's not okay, right? You're going to have demons, meaning just basically like our lower base desires. There's nothing wrong with our desires, but they don't belong in heaven. And so Vamana came as this little dwarf, and Bali, the demon king, saw how much was coming off of his aura, how powerful he was, and he was a saint. And he said, whatever you want, I'll grant you one wish. And so Vamana said, okay, well, just give me 3 steps of your kingdom, and that is my wish. And so he granted him the wish, and then he suddenly rise to the biggest form of the universe of Vishnu, because Vishnu, like Shravana, can go everywhere, and proceeded to take 1 step on the earth, and then the other step across the whole universe. And so there was no more steps to be made. And so the last step was on the head of Bali, pushing him back into the lower realms. And so it's not, in a lot of the Vedic myths, they don't really kill the thing, they just put it back in its place. So we can have our higher ideals, like the gods, ruling the heavens, orienting our path, and the demons, which are important too, that are in the lower, to give us the desire, to give us that power. So today's a great day to prioritize things, to put things in their place, replace things and put them here. Everything goes in a certain spot. And so, really incredible day to organize, and to kind of maybe look back on the week and reorganize what you were doing, and putting things in their proper place. Cool. Super neat. And so we're going to have Kirsten on today, and we're going to take a look at her chart. So I'm going to go ahead and pull her up on Skype. And while we're doing that too, just really cool, the stars in the sky, there's these 3 stars representing the 3 footprints. And in Western astronomy, they are the constellation Aquila. I forget the name, but I just know it's an eagle. um, and so it's like showing that like higher vision, you know, to see things from up above. So really cool. All right, so let's. Hey, what's up, cuz? My cousin's on the line here. Okay, let's go ahead and call her up, and we will take a look at her chart and see how, you know, this is affecting her, and see what kind of questions she has as well. Hi.
Hi, Sharu.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just, let's see, getting out of
Hey,
the
Josh.
Facebook Live. Okay.
Cool. All right, excellent. So let's put your chart up here. My handy dandy. I like saying handy dandy. It's funny when you listen to yourself on recordings, you're like, oh, I say that saying a lot.
Hmm.
Maybe I should say another kind of thing. um, anyways, so you have Moon at the edge here in Aries, the very end of Aries, and then you have Saturn exalted in um, Libra, and Mars and Venus together. So a lot of passion in your life with romance and just excitement and such. um, and then we have Mercury, Jupiter, and the Sun in Scorpio. And so, of course, in Western, you would be a Sag Sun, right?
Actually, I'm right on the cusp. I am still a Scorpio in Western
Oh, right, right,
astrology.
right. Of course, that's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. I missed the 3 degrees there. Um, but yeah, your moon is on the cusp of Aries instead of just being fully in Taurus. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and your rising sign as well is right on the edge here of Gemini and Cancer, but still it falls in Gemini. So today for you, the moon in Shravana is highlighting this eighth house of your chart, and so it can deal a lot with, you know, deeper emotional uh, changes and feeling maybe a little bit more intense about things sometimes. Whenever the moon comes back into Capricorn in this way, so you could track the sky every like 27 days, and you could maybe be prepared for a little bit more emotional inquiry and going deeper into yourself, which is what we're going to do today, right?
Hmm.
Perfect timing. Um, cool. So yeah, I'll just go right into your questions. Yeah, what kind of question do you have today?
Yeah. So one of the questions that's been here for me is just a general question about relationships. I feel like I feel called to have children, and I haven't really found a life partner, and I'm sort of feeling the pressure of time around that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and yeah.
All right. Great. So I get asked this question almost every single time. Um, not to say that, you know, because it's so important, right? It's like directly opposite. This is like us, the first house, and who we partner with determines the whole, you know, happiness and feeling of our life. You know, so it's a really important thing. Um, and with Vedic astrology, we can really tell you know, what kind of person would be good for us, so we can stop dating the wrong people and find a better match and maybe where they are. And we can also know the timing of like, is this a good phase for relationships as well?
Hmm.
Sometimes you're like trying to go for a relationship, it's maybe really a time for your career, or it's more of a time to do shadow work and such. So we'll look at all that, but first let's just go step by step in looking at your relationship stuff. And I'm noticing a theme already. Um, and so first we'll go with the seventh house, which is our partnerships. And so Sagittarius, it's Jupiter, ruled by Jupiter. So we look at, oh, okay, partnership is in the sixth house here. All right. Now, sixth house is like a Virgo kind of energy. It's like kind of more analytical, picking things apart, and it can feel more separative, right? And so there's one thing there with that. And then you have Venus in Virgo, the sixth sign. So in both cases, you have this Virgo, sixth house quality to your relationships, and and so what it creates is that did a reading last week. It's the psychologist Venus. It's like getting analytical about emotions and relationships, right?
Mm.
And so basically, with this combination, uh, the kind of guy that would work for you is more of this like healer type or like therapist type, or somebody that can be, is more um, kind of self analytical, right? And if it's not that
Mhm.
kind of guy, then you're going to be more prone to that analysis rather than just like, oh, letting go, letting like bliss and letting things happen. You're going to really like pick it apart more, right?
Mhm.
And so it needs to
Mhm.
be some kind of person uh, that can that is about that ultimately, right? It's like they
Mhm.
also have that analytical quality who can go there with you. And so also I find with a sixth house or sixth sign Venus and uh, ruler of relationship planet in the sixth house, there's this separative quality to it. So it's like the opposite of what we want in relationships. And so there's ways to mitigate that, where it's even like maybe even with like a husband, like having like separate households, you know, and just having
Mhm.
your own space.
Mhm.
Can you
Yeah,
relate to
yeah,
that?
I can really relate to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds really ideal.
And so instead of like being enmeshed together, uh, you know, you would, with this combination, I'm seeing it twice. You would need to have that separation and kind of like, okay, here's the karma of separation, right? We're gonna do the separation already, so it doesn't have to happen in our relationship to an extreme degree to not be together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, those are things to look at. And so with the Vedic astrology readings, you can really pinpoint like, oh yeah, it has to be this kind of thing. And then also what I'm noticing is basically Jupiter is the same exact degree as the south node of the moon. So it's like an eclipsing point as well. And the south node is ultimately like enlightenment and spirituality and like on the mundane plane being really idealistic, right? So this is like a combination for I want to I want to marry a monk, you know? Right? Yeah. But the thing is that usually they renounce sexuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's finding the balance of that, of just like a more spiritualizing kind of person, you know, and then um, and then that has this sense of their own power as well. Um, and so your Sun and Mercury are in the other part of Scorpio, which is about devotion. Just really like Radha. It's Honor Radha is the name, and it's about this really extreme devotion. And so it's like partnerships is a really important part for you, and you want that merging. You want that divinity through relationships, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's like wanting to keep the excitement alive. And so a lot of times I see with the Mars Venus combination as well, it's like if the romantic phase, is done, people with Venus Mars combinations tend to think their relationship's broken somehow, right? Um, and so and because you want that like more excitement and like that feeling, and it kind of burns things up faster, right? Um, and so we're looking at a kind of guy that's very spiritual, um, not religious, so to speak, and able to really analyze himself, analyze his emotions, and such. And so, yeah, can you relate to that, or you want to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that feels about right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh huh. Okay. And so, if we look at the cycles here, I'll go ahead and pull up your the image of your chart here, and we could see that you are in the major cycle of Rahu, the North Node, since you were about 20, yeah, 21, 22 years old, and it goes all the way to 39.
Mm.
Um, and so the way that you have the North Node is in the uh, the 12th house of that same kind of spirituality, travel, higher states of consciousness, and wanting to really make things grow, but more so in this spirit realm, in this more higher state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so since 2000, uh, since February 2017, you've been in the subcycle of Venus. So this particular period is really about the like getting like having that desire for relationships. Like it's really strong during this phase, and it goes all the way till February 2020. Uh, and so it's yeah, really wanting to have this because Venus rules Libra, so it brings in wanting to really commit to this passionate relationship, since Saturn, all about commitments, really triggers
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, and so now, uh, now this the nodes of the moon just recently on the spring equinox moved into your first and seventh house axis. And so this is a tendency to be more focused on yourself and more spiritualizing and idealizing partnerships, right? So
Mm.
it can make it a little bit more tricky, because this would show like, oh, it's more of like a self, like looking at your self time, you know. Um,
Mm.
but through that, self development and becoming solid within yourself would make you more likely to attract a proper relationship. So that's a way to kind of twist it to be like, okay, I'm working on myself and doing my thing, and that's going to bring me more to the proper alignment for a partnership, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and then also, Venus and Virgo. If somebody has that, and then they have a Venus cycle come up, it's usually like something needs to be fixed in my relationships. The hardest place for Venus to be is Virgo, in that it's like I want to change something. You know, I want
Mm.
to analyze it and go to therapy, for instance, and pick it apart to be able to have successful relationships. You know,
Mm.
um, and so yeah, that just with this transit here, it's going to show more of this like idealizing and wanting this like bigger vision, and finding spirituality through partnerships, and it's more self-focused, and so yeah, the clock, uh, you still have a ways to go before the countdown, right, of having a kid. um,
Uh-huh.
but this period with the Venus, it rules the fifth house of Libra, and the fifth house is children, right? So
Mm.
it's like this big desire for that. Um, and so, yeah, looking, basically, it's, yeah, coming into like full alignment with your, like your dharma and your career in a way. And how are you feeling around that?
Uh, I've been feeling kind of awkward around my career lately. I've been feeling like for the last year or so that it's kind of that my work is kind of it almost feels like it's been dying, and I keep thinking like, oh, it's kind of crumbling and it's about to be turned into something a little bit different, but I can't. But that part, that kind of rebirthing, re-energized phase that I keep thinking is happening has not happened, and I've kind of been feeling a little bit stuck um, in my work right now, and like wondering where it's going.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. A little more volume on my mic. Thanks. Um, so yeah, because I find when people really come into like their career and delivering that, then they somehow become more available and have more successful relationships in that way. Um,
Hmm.
and so and also I'm seeing um, this the eclipse is happening where it's going to bring more of this like self focus, you know. So it could be, you know, you could do like self focus things in regards to relationships, right? Doing different kind of like learning and educating and all these kind of things. Um, but yeah, the next phase is February 2020, coming into the sun cycle. And that's where one would really express more of their identity and their individuality and also become more, available as well. So, I'm seeing, well, for one, it's doing this self development. I mean, like obviously still putting yourself out there and such, but also, uh, you know, knowing how your relationship, like ideal, would be configured. Um, like where is that kind of person, right? Like where would they be? Like obviously doing, spiritual development, or hopefully not off in a cave somewhere unavailable, you know.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
yeah, and so yeah, and it's just more tricky with the more spiritual people because then they get really idealistic, um, right? And it could be just rare form. But you're in the right place. You're in northern. Where are you living?
I'm living in Davis.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Northern
Yeah.
California, um, the West Coast is where a lot of these kind of guys are. Um, and so yeah, do you have any questions about what we've talked about, or more clarity on things?
Um, let's see. So I think what I'm hearing is that this might be a better time to focus on my own development, potentially in relationships, and that it's more likely that I might find that partnership um, after, like, in once I go into the February 2020
Yeah,
phase.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's the cycle is longer, um, and so you're almost about halfway through, and so
Hmm.
this becomes the part where, as well, there's like an actualization of it. Like at the beginning of a Venus in Virgo phase, it it starts out like something needs to change and it gives your attention, and then therefore you work on it, and then uh, you could find the solution, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm not saying like ever. I don't ever like saying there's a future date where a relationship will happen. You know, no
Hmm.
matter what, it can happen like tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
right? So don't think that.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, but it's just more. Uh, it just kind of helps you orient to, instead of kind of like leaking your energy in this way and that to really focus in on yeah, like that's more self-development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Eh,
then would that include working on my career? Because I feel like I've been working on my work, but my work feels kind of stuck. So at some point I was like, well, maybe I should just focus on other things. But um, it sounds like developing that would be, I don't know. It's just been so stuck. So I'm kind of like, well, yeah, I should get that all dialed in before I move into a relationship, but it's just been feeling so
right.
yeah.
Well, really with also since March, the equinox, the nodes going in here, these are the main, especially the north node is one of the main energies of like innovation. And this is like, all right, I'm going to totally shift my entire identity, right? Like
Mm,
you're going to go into the shadow underneath, right? During the first big eclipse is July 2nd right here. And so that's an
mhm,
opportunity for you to just totally like, whoa, like transform uh, your whole life and direction, right?
mm,
And it's
mhm,
happening now because it's in there, and we'll really feel it during the eclipses. And so potentially maybe it's just like let go of your career as you know it and innovate to a whole different way. And maybe
mm,
that innovation will be the spark to bring new life and new breath into your life and to make partnerships like really easy. You know?
mhm.
Yeah, see that big breath you just took?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so just like, okay, I don't need to do business as usual, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm in a revolutionary phase here. Um,
Uh-huh.
and to just totally do it differently and take a risk, you know, take risks in that way.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and a lot of times I find with a Rahu Venus phase or a Venus Rahu phase, it's the one where people like quit their job because they want to do what they've always wanted to do. You know, Rahu is like I have to have it, the North Node, and Venus is our happiness and pleasure. So the combo of those cycles really create that like going for what just really turns you on and
Mhm.
stopping business as usual. So I think that can help you, uh, get out of this more. You tend to go more to like the analytical, like limitation minds when it comes to relationship. You know, and just in general, you have a really analytical mind. You have like four planets in the sixth house, and then two planets in the sixth sign. So that's like analysis paralysis, right?
Mm,
Yeah. And so uh, maybe talking to friends uh, that you're like, I don't get how they could just do that thing without thinking about XYZ instead. Maybe talk to those people. They're just like, yeah, girl, just go out and blah blah blah. Do this thing, do that thing. But talk to people that will help you think upside down, so to speak, or to look at life from a different perspective to change things up.
uh-huh.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, yeah. Anything else that you wanted to look at?
Um, I think that's the main
Okay.
thing that I can think of right now.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
yeah, and you mentioned so do you feel like there is resonance with children or that would fit into this whole astrological path?
Yeah. Yeah. You would be an incredible mother. I see people that have Saturn in the fifth house of children. They are just like super committed to yeah to children ultimately, like to their children. And it's just potentially like there's more of these higher ideals that you have, um, so which makes sense. You don't want to just get pregnant with somebody and it's like a bad situation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want it to be really super ideal and amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so um yeah, so it's not to like lower your ideals, but I think it's just yeah, to find where these kind of guys are. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
All right.
children, uh, it is interesting. Uh, the planet of children is Jupiter, and you have it right over here with the south node, which like kind of eclipses it. And so it doesn't deny it, um, but it just really makes it so those really high ideals can get in the way of
Mm.
it happening.
Mm.
It's like it spiritualizes the or makes it kind of like harder to fathom or to reach in a way.
Mm.
Um, but I don't want to say that, and then make you
Mm.
walk around like, oh, my children's are eclipsed. Having it's not like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah. So it's just yeah, it's like not lowering your standards, but just finding the place where those kind of people are, and yeah, and go with that more kind of analytical therapist kind of person,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
cool. Okay,
Oh, thank you so much, Sharu.
you're welcome.
Really appreciate all this.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Great. So, for all you out there that are curious about your relationship configuration, just go ahead and you can schedule a reading with me right up there on the link above. And we can get into the details of your relationship karma and the certain phase you're in. For Kirsten, it was more of the self period, uh, which would then bring the relationship. So, there's all these different strategies to go about it, uh, based on the timing and how things are moving in the sky. All right, thanks for all tuning in, and have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful weekend.